Believe in yourself and all that you are. Know that there is something inside you that is greater than any obstacle. See, challenges makes you more responsible. Always remember that life without struggle is a life without success. So don't give up and learn not to quit. My name is Angel. This is Have Faith, Let It Begin. And this is part 3, the conclusion of negativity. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us for part 3 of negativity. Let's get started right away. As I was returning back from my scheduled week vacation, I had no idea what I was walking back into. When I left it, everything was back on track. As we discussed in part 2, which ended on Friday, we learned that I was given total claim to all those that were, all the sales reps that were put on the island. Well, I come back from my vacation, and let me paint a picture for you. In order to walk into my sales floor, you have to walk into the main entrance. There were 2 entrances. The main entrance would actually walk through the branch manager's office into sales floor number 1, which was held by our manager. And then you have to walk through there in order to get past the island and eventually into my sales floor. When I walked in, I discovered that half of my staff, that half of my agents were in the gold and platinum area. I got sick to my stomach. I realized that there had been some moves, some changes. What I didn't realize was that when I walked into my office, I would have a note, and the note would tell me that my room was depleted, and that now I would have to basically overhaul and hire new staff, new agents, and basically start all over again. I was extremely upset. I called a meeting with my only 2 leaders that I had left. We went out to lunch, and they filled me in on what had happened. During the course of the week, they had told me that the manager, our shift manager, would walk into the room, check our stats, which is what he's supposed to do. But basically, he was getting prepared. He was preparing to take over and take some of our agents over to his room. So he downsized his floor and took all of his remaining low-producing sales reps, let them go, and replaced them with half of our sales floor. Now, I want to stop right there for a second and let you know that that really is the way the job is supposed to run. My job is to make new individuals come in, make them successful, and eventually graduate them into his floor. The difference was I trained them. I oversaw them. I made sure that they were prepared. He, on the other hand, was not really into training individuals, following up, retraining them, keeping them motivated. If they started to not produce, he just let them go and expected people to just come over into his room and do the job, which made his workload less. That's not what it's all about in sales. As a sales manager, you will find that you will see most of your producing reps hit a dry spell. It's almost like when you're, trying to achieve a goal and losing weight, you will hit what they call a plateau. But at that moment, you don't have to give up. It doesn't mean you just say, oh, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to stop right here. No, it doesn't work that way. You see, what you have to do is you have to take the initiative to restructure yourself. Find out what's causing that plateau, that agent not to sell. Listen to them, monitor them, and then retrain them, rejuvenate them to the point where they're back to where they were. And that's what sales is all about. Back to the story. So when I went to lunch with my staff, they had told me that he'd walked in at one point and says, we're going to pull 5 of your agents tonight. And they said, why would you pull 5 agents? We'll be short hours. Well, I emailed Angel, he says. Now, let me just paint a perspective to all of you. This is back in 2001. We didn't have cell phones that had the capability of internet and email. Don't get me wrong. The technology was there if you had a BlackBerry. I didn't have that kind of money. And the technology wasn't where I could just walk into a computer area and log on to, our corporate accounts. And quite frankly, when I was on vacation, it wasn't like my cell phone was on. And back then, international calls would not have gone through, or overseas calls. I was in Cancun, Mexico. So he did, in a way, he did do the right thing. He emailed me, but I wouldn't see that email till I got back. So it was kind of a loophole. He did communicate with me, but he should have done it before I left. Back to the story. So agents were removed from the sales floor. Agents were then put onto his side, and he let go of his staff. He let go of the quote-unquote dead weight, as we said it, or low-producing agents. And he replaced them with our team. Then 5 became 10, and 10 became 15. That was half of my room. Half. And took 2 additional managers, leaders, team leaders, which put us in a stranglehold, because now, as a manager of a sales floor, you have to produce hours. You have to produce good producing hours. Now, we're short of hours. We're short of staff. And at the end of the month, if I don't fill that room back up, that's looked heavily upon my numbers. So we decided to restructure. We decided to come up with a new plan. And this is where my life started to take shape in the business world. I had learned at that moment in time that you can't trust anybody. That you have to learn in sales that there are going to be people in the world that want to take over, or want what you have, or are envious, or are, in it for themselves. And the word team didn't have the letter I in it. So my restructuring was very simple. I talked to my staff, and we decided to elevate our room by putting new names to our structure. So as you know, just giving you a recap, on my side we had bronze and silver. And then I did a bronze and silver elite. And that's what we had done. Well, this time we did a bronze plus, a silver, and a silver plus elite. What I did was, the bronze were the new people that were just hired, and then if I saw anyone that had instant potential, I moved them into the bronze plus category, which gave them an opportunity to have a buddy system. And when we had new hires that were struggling, they would be buddied up with that person. And then I took the silver and the silver elite, and I challenged them to come up with new ways to show us how they could be managers in the future. By doing this, we put ourselves in a dire need of 2 new staff members. We put ourselves to restructure the room and have motivation to make this room successful yet again. I would have a scheduled meeting with our branch manager and our shift manager prior to this. And when they told me that my numbers were struggling, I didn't want to get into a back and forth with my manager and my shift manager and my branch manager. I decided to stay quiet. And the reason being is I knew that if I had given them any type of inkling of what I was going to do, they would find a way to bring me down. So all I asked was for a Saturday training, which was never done. I asked if I could come in and train people on a Saturday so that I could get started on a Monday. Typically, trainings would start on a Monday, and then by the time Wednesday came around, they were on the phones. In this instance, I had a Saturday training, and I had a goal to put them on the phones first thing Monday. The trainings on Saturdays would be longer. They thought it was funny. They didn't think I could get people to come in on a Saturday. What they didn't know was I was offering breakfast and lunch to the people that signed up to the training and signed up and were hired for the job. So I had motivation for them to work on a Saturday. We trained 17 agents. I gave myself a buffer in case somebody didn't come back. All 17 returned. All 17 were bronze and bronze plus. I was able to pull 3 silver elite people and make them part-time managers, part-time supervisors. Within the next couple of months, our numbers continue to soar. Our numbers just continue to dominate the other side. And throughout the next 6 to 8 months, we would go back and forth. He would still make moves and try to challenge me by moving agents to and from my sales floor. And then, I'll never forget the date. It was holiday season, when my manager came up to me and he said, "We're going to have holiday hours." Now, I had put in for a holiday schedule vacation to go home to my family. I was declined 2 weeks prior. He gave everybody time off for the holidays and put me on schedule. Now, mind you, we don't work on Christmas Day. But on this particular week, they had a shift that started on Christmas Eve and ended early. I was scheduled for it. I would basically have lost my scheduled vacation to be with my family. So I had about a day and a half worth to return back to my family's home. When I returned, they initially put me back on for New Year's as well. And any time he had an opportunity to put me on certain holidays, he would. The manager knew that I was going through a huge, devastating breakup and decided to give me off on days where I really wanted to work. He put me on to have days off on Valentine's Day, knowing that I'd be home when I'd rather be working. He'd play games and call me and see if I was interested in, going to an event where it was a +1, knowing I had no friends. And at that point in time, I realized I needed to pray. I needed to put God first and to ask Him to help me overcome this obstacle. As the new year rang and things started to progress, we were visited for the new annual year from the regional manager. The regional manager pulled me aside and told me that he was watching my numbers, and he was very impressed with the way our sales floor changed and evolved. He asked me to take on a new project where I would learn a different position. I obliged and definitely took advantage of that offer. I was given 2 separate agents to run a separate program. As this was happening, my attention and my focus was on this program. The shift manager then took it upon himself to try to figure out any way possible as to what program I was doing. At one point in time, because we didn't really have very good security, he was able to view my stats. He was able to go into my desk, which I never locked because we never had keys for them. We never had to because we shared offices. But in my particular case, we had no other full-time manager, so I had my own office. He was able to go inside, and he was able to discover my plans for the future. He started implementing them and changing his sales floor to Gold, Gold Plus, Platinum, and Platinum Elite. At one point I sat there and said, what am I going to do to overcome this gentleman who continually tries to undermine me and steal my ideas? I knew that at that point it was on. I knew that if I continued to go this way, one way or another, it would not end well. Well, as the months went on, we discovered that there would be a major change, a major overhaul in the entire branch. When the regional manager returned and started to offer me more information and more things to do, he started asking me questions about how my branch manager was treating us as a staff. And as a professional, I said I was okay with him. I said we have our differences, but overall I respect him as a manager, and I will continue to do my best to be here, as you all were giving me the option to move here. What I didn't know was the fate of our branch manager was over. He was let go. he would then be replaced by my mentor, which all of you have heard before, his name, when I dedicated a show. My mentor, Ralph, was becoming the new branch manager. I'm not going to lie, I was excited. I knew that my fate would change. I knew that the good was on my side. But I still had one more obstacle. I had to deal with our shift manager. Fast forwarding into the story, when my mentor took over, I didn't realize that our former branch manager had a stranglehold on many of us. And all those people that were doing things to me were not doing them deliberate, but instead were being told and being shown how to do things in a negative way. When our mentor took over, people's attitudes changed. Yes, I'll be honest, a lot of them knew who he was to me, but I started to see that it was the leader. It was the previous leader that allowed the negativity to run rampant. I eventually received an apology from my shift manager, and we went on to become very good coworkers. He showed me a lot of his talents. I showed him some of mine. The reason why I'm telling you this story and why it has such an abrupt ending is because a lot of people in life are going to have obstacles. Obstacles are put in your way to see if what you want is really worth fighting for. At that time, what I could do with that offer, with that opportunity, myself, to walk with people that I didn't think were some people that had my best interest at heart, ended up being the people that looked up to me and asked me for the same help that they were taking away from me. Here's a life lesson. Don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. You will never truly know yourself or the strength of your relationships with coworkers until both of you have tested and have been tested by adversity, by design. It's amazing. It is truly amazing. And that's really the conclusion of this story. I cannot believe that took 3 years. And in 3 years, I went from being the most hated, the most it brings back memories, making you go into work every day and not loving your job, waking up every morning and dreading to get up and get dressed, was the hardest 3 years of my life. That, of course, with combined of going through a depression and not having, anyone to lean on for doing the breakup. I thank God every day that He gave me the strength and the ability to get up every morning, face my fears, face my challenges, face my enemies, but always respect them, always keep them first in my prayers, and never allowing them to bring me down. So let me conclude by saying this. Every day we go to work. Every day we deal with negativity. Every single day in life we're challenged. Every single day in life there's going to be people out there that are going to want to see you fail. And I've said this since the day I went back to college at the age of 30. Failing is half the battle. Believe in yourself. Challenges are what make life interesting. Overcome them is what makes it meaningful. If you have a positive attitude and consistently strive to give your best, then do it with effort, because eventually you will overcome your immediate problems and find your way of being ready and find that you are ready for any greater challenge, any greater hope. Don't allow anyone to steal your joy. Believe in yourself. Believe in all that you have been given, because the difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations. If you hear a voice say, "You cannot do it," turn around and say, "Watch me." I did that, and I continue to do that every single day in my life. Somebody once told me, "Angel, you'll never go to college and finish." 2011, I graduated with a degree. Watch me. Somebody once said, "Angel, there's no way you're going to be able to overcome spinal surgery and walk again." Watch me. I walked again. Somebody once told me that I would never find love again, that I will always be alone. Watch me. I'm married to a beautiful woman. For 11 years, she's been my backbone. Somebody once told me, "You will never have children. You will never be a father." By the grace of God, by the grace of hope, and the miracle of life, and by God's blessing, this November, I will be a father. Watch me. I believe in each and every one of you, and I believe in this show. And I believe that with God and through God, all things are possible. Have faith. Let it begin.
Don't you see that your faith is coming?